Hi, and welcome to the Boat Princess podcast. My name is Nicky Vaux, and I'm your host. I am a boat owner, a marina owner, a director on the Marina Industries Association, and a huge advocate for boating. In this series, I'm sharing the stories from every nook of the boating industry with the intention of encouraging more women to join me and for more women to get behind the helm too. I want to share the experience and opportunities of boating, of the boating industry, and I want you to join me as I bring the conversations and answer all the questions you've had. Boating is not just for the glamorous and rich and famous. It's full of beautiful and interesting people making the most of our natural environment and getting out there, enjoying the waterways. So let's set off the lines, take over the helm, and escape to the world of boating. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Boat Princess podcast. I am here with Sarah Luck, who is design director at SeaTag Yachts. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Really nice to be here.
We are sitting in a very nice studio apartment in the lovely Southampton Harbour Hotel. She has driven all the way up from Plymouth, for which I am very grateful, because that is, of course, where SeaTag is based.
Yeah.
And so have you always lived in Plymouth, Sarah?
No, actually, I live in Exeter. And Plymouth is obviously quite convenient to get to from Exeter, but also I travel a lot to see our customers. So being in Exeter is that just hour closer to a lot of the marinas that we visit quite regularly. So it's quite a good spot for me, to be honest.
That's wonderful. So always been on the South Coast, though, from childhood?
Yes, yeah, definitely as a South girl. I did live in London for a while, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit more detail later when I worked for Princess in the early days. But yes, predominantly south, around Southampton for a while, and then back down to Devon, and I love it down there.
Oh, it's a beautiful part of the world.
It is, yeah. It's really
absolutely.
beautiful.
Yeah. So let's start with your childhood. Were you a boater as a kid, or?
I wasn't actually, and funnily enough, it wasn't something that I even really considered as a career option until I was probably in university.
Okay.
I always wanted to do interior design. That was my love. And as a child, actually, I was obsessed with a 90s TV show called Changing Rooms, which everybody will laugh at.
Changing Rooms.
So I was obsessed with that show. And I think at the age of 7, I announced to my parents that I wanted to announce that I wanted to be an interior designer, but it actually came out I'd love to be an interior disaster. So that went wrong.
Well, at least you didn't say you wanted to marry Lawrence Llewellyn Bryan.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't say that. But I could have said that. But no, it sort of stemmed from there, really. And I had an obsession with always moving my bedroom around, much to the annoyance of my parents downstairs. And I just always had a thing for it. So I was very focused on going into design from a very young age. And it was always something that was my priority at school. I was always drawing and doing, very excited about doing visual tasks, more so than maths and science and things, perhaps.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where it started, really.
Yeah, so you've always had that passion. I remember Changing Rooms. It was a great show. Used to love it.
Yeah, and it's made a bit of a comeback recently, but you can't beat the early ones.
No, exactly right. All those stencils.
Yes, exactly, and borders and everything you just wouldn't go near now, but at the time were brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a real passion for you from childhood for your whole interior design space. Is there anyone else in your family that influenced that, or was that just purely from you?
Not directly, I would say. There's definitely a lot of creative people in my family, in the music line as well as sort of art, but not really interior design. That's something that I fell in love with for whatever reason, and I seem to be the only one that's done that in my family. Yeah.
Fantastic. So obviously you had a very clear direction as what you wanted your education to be. So what did you do?
So after I left school, I went to college and focused purely on art and design. Instead of doing ordinary A levels. I did a diploma in art and design. So I was very, like I said, very keen on focusing in on that area from a younger age. Absolutely loved that, and there was lots of different areas of art and design that I covered in that. From there, I then went on to Winchester School of Art and did textile design, because I wanted to have a detailed knowledge of one area of interior design. And I thought I can always specialise in doing general interior design after I've done something like textile design. So my knowledge of textiles is it's quite detailed.
Yep.
And I think that's really important for the type of job that I do. And after I was in college, and I finished my degree, I went to work as a work experience, I went to work for a company called Palmer Johnson Yachts. And they were in Hythe at the time. And I just kind of, all of a sudden it clicked with the boats. And I thought, this is so creative, and it's so different to sort of any other avenue of interior design that I'd ventured down. And I didn't really look back from that point, to be honest. I kind of thought, right, I need to do boats. I need to do yachts. And I thought at that point, yacht design and high-end yacht design requires such a high level of knowledge and precision and a very
well, it's not just about the design. You've got to make things work, and they've got to actually tolerate the movement and all those sorts of things as well. And it's all so
custom, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they're all so different. So at that point I thought, right, I really need to go and study interior design specifically and try and tailor my studies towards yachts, which is what I did. I went to KLC School of Design in London, in Chelsea. And I really, throughout that course, I was very keen on always saying to them, right, my project is tailored towards a yacht. It's always tailored towards a yacht. And at the time, I was one of few that were interested in that avenue. And it wasn't something that was widely sort of thought of as an avenue to go down interior design.
No, I can imagine.
And it's funny that this was sort of 10 or so years ago. And in the last 10 years, I've actually been invited back to KLC to talk about design with yachts and boats, because there seems to be such a growing interest in it. And it is something that now is on their radar, whereas it wasn't a decade ago.
There you go.
So that's a really lovely development to see.
Yeah, that's great. Because, like you say, it's interior design is a massive area. But it's actually specifying to the yachts is quite unusual. And like you say, I think the quality of interior design that's done on a yacht is so much higher than in a normal apartment, if you like. It allows you the creativity to be a little bit more interesting, a little bit more, because you've got to excite people when they get onto that yacht, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's things you can get away with in homes, in beautiful homes as well, that you just can't on a boat. And everything needs to be that much more polished and that much more tailored to the space for it to look as it should. And of course, in doing that, there's many different options in how you can customize things. So part of the charm and the beauty of working directly with our customers is that each and every project is always completely different. And they've always got the owner's stamp on them, and I'm always very keen to preserve that. And I'm not the kind of designer that likes to push my own style too much on somebody. To me, it's very important that all the projects come out looking different, actually, because they should all represent the owner. And a lot of people do have trouble visualizing what they want to do. Sometimes they don't even know what the style is, but that really is my role, is to pull out people's style and make them feel comfortable with what they're doing, and then fall in love with what we're putting together and think, oh my God, that really is me.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So that course at KLC went for how long?
That was a 3-year part-time course, and I worked with a residential interior designer at the time as well, actually. and kind of carried on building up my knowledge and working with customers, and getting the client-facing side of my experience as well.
So at that time you started to work on that whole working with clients and giving them their vision as well as giving them advice on your vision.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
And just what part of the process that I love is just talking to people at the beginning of the process and trying to really understand who they are and what makes them tick. And when I show people a selection of materials or timbers or metals or whatever it is at the beginning of a project, just to see the things that people gravitate towards versus what they really hate is fascinating. And then based on that short meeting, I can go away and pull something together that I'm 90% sure that they will love. And then from there, we tweak it into the final sort of article, really.
I think that's a really good difference between a good designer and a not so good designer is, really listening to their client and absorbing their likes and their dislikes. And I think that's super, super important. Yeah. So after you've done the KLC course, what did you do then?
Then this is a funny story, actually. So I sort of honed in on Princess Yachts early on in that course. And I thought, because I was comparing them to other brands and sort of the quality of what Princess offered and the designs that they came out with were, in my opinion, superior. And I thought, that's the kind of level of company I want to work for. And the boats are beautiful. So I sent them a few letters, and this was sort of back in the day, really, where you sent letters on nice paper to the HR departments.
Yes.
And if they didn't have a job available, they put you on a pile, probably. Yes. Which I guess is what had happened. And I think I probably sent 3 or 4, and I thought, this isn't working. So I'm going to go to Southampton Boat Show, and I'm just going to go and talk to them. I'm just going to walk up on the stand and say, have you got my letters? Sorry to be a pain, but, I really love you as a brand, and I'm very keen to work for you. So I did just that. And I was fortunate that on that day, one of my ex-colleagues was there. I had a great chat with her. And subsequently got an interview with the director of creative design at the time, Sarah Veery.
Yep.
And it just sort of went from there, really. We got on really well, and I started working for them, I think, about a month after my course had finished, 2 months after my course had finished. And it was, the best thing I did, to be honest. I can't imagine it.
Life without that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. I have a similar moment to that. And I think this is a message that we need to get across to people potentially looking at coming into our industry is that don't be afraid to approach directly a company that you want to work with, because the absolute worst thing they can do is say no. And if that's
exactly
that's it, but I think a lot of people might send that first email or that first letter and not get a response, and therefore not continue to pursue it.
Yes.
But I think I'm a perfect example. I'm a very, very busy person, and I might not see that first email, and therefore if you approach me another way, then I might see that,
Yes.
So I think it's really important to get that message. Rejection is okay.
Yes.
And it gives you a learning curve of doing something else as well. But I did the exact same with the Ritz in London. When I was at college, they had a stand, and I literally went up to them and said, I want to work for you.
It works.
Yeah.
It just works.
Yeah. And they said, okay, come in for an interview. And that was it. So you need to put yourself out there, and it can be a little bit scary, but putting yourself out there gets you something. If you don't ask, you don't get. It's as simple as that in life.
And it allows people to see that you're, a go-getter. You're passionate. You're already part of the team, really, because you're already wanting to work for them. And it just gives people a bit more confidence than reading a piece of paper.
I agree. And with a brand like that, like Princess, you already have a belief in their brand.
Yes.
So it's wonderful for them that belief, that passion in their brand is, that they're already at a head start for employing you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's great. Yeah. Okay. So you're at Princess. You're designing. What are you doing at Princess specifically?
So I started by working in their London office, and that was with a couple of colleagues there. I started in a junior role, assisting a couple of colleagues. I think that was for about 6 months to a year. And that was in the design space or just generally within the company? So that was initially, we had a sort of, what do you call it, like a studio in Lots Road in Chelsea. And then we moved to PMOS's sort of flagship central London office, which is in Grosvenor Street. And we have had a beautiful office studio downstairs for the designers to work in. And it meant that whenever our customers came in, we had the boardroom and we had all those other facilities around us as well, which is really good. So I worked there with them. I was in that office, I think, about 3 years in total. And a couple of those years, obviously, I then took on my own projects and started working with my own customers. And it was predominantly working with customers on boats over sort of 80 feet at the time, doing, quite dramatic customizations and really upgrading their yachts to something quite special. It was we offered a service as well to boats under that size where they could pay a fee and get the design studio involved in making customizations to any boats. Okay. So I did get a very good knowledge through that time of the kind of things that people would want, kind of things that people want to ask for that are additional to a standard product, which was very interesting. And presumably that office was in London because Plymouth is quite a long drive. So yes. Yeah, exactly. And also there's so many different design houses in London. Yes. You can really inspire people by just taking them for a walk down Bond Street. And showing them, some beautiful throws and Hermes or, products in Fendi. Yeah. There's so many brands around there that really help the design process. You can get inspiration from just walking down there and you think, oh my gosh, that blanket has such stunning colours in it. Why don't we use that for inspiration for your master cabin, for example? Yeah.
And a piece that you work from, as it were.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes it worked out that way. And also you've got Chelsea Harbour in London, which is just full of the most beautiful designer shops for interior design. Yeah. Beautiful. And lighting companies, etc. So you've kind of got everything around you that you need to really customize something to its best.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Okay, so you've been in the London office for a while. Did you say 3 years?
Yes, about 3 years, I think.
Okay, yeah. And then what happened?
And then I made the decision because I think I said earlier on I'm a Devon girl, really. Yes. I made the decision that actually I wanted to move back to Devon.
God's country.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I investigated the opportunity with my then boss of going to work with her in the shipyard. So I worked with her for a couple of years in Plymouth, and that was on the development of all the new boats and the look of the interiors of the new boats, predominantly more FF&E and surface design based, that role. Right.
Just explain to the listeners what FF&E means.
So it's the things that you see when you're looking around. So it's the lighting, it's the furniture, it's the they call it equipment, but it's relating to the things that you touch and feel and use. Door handles, that kind of thing, and it's the look that can change according to taste. Okay. So it's the things that the finishes that it could be a leather, it could be a stone, it could be whatever it is. It's the finishes, really. It's the overall kind of, it goes to curtains, it goes to tablecloths even. It can go quite, to
does it go back to cutlery or?
It can do. Yeah, it can do. Yeah. So it's kind of those final trimmings, those final layers, and it's not is the structural side of things. It's not where's that bulkhead going, and that kind of side of things. But it's the finished look.
So it's the feel and the finishes and the mood and the way it makes you feel when you're on board.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So you were involved heavily in doing that. What was your difference that you brought to that design? What do you think could you tell that's a Sarah Luck moment there?
I don't think so, because we work in such a team spirit down there. I think it would be very difficult to say that and pick on any of the designers and say, oh, that's them and that's them and that's them. I mean, the nature of working within Princess, and particularly in the development department, is that you're all there for a collective product and a collective look. And I think it's very important that you don't actually drive your personal opinion too much. You always try and think about what the best thing is for the collective look
and the client's
design
perspective.
For that. Yeah. And of course, when you're designing a standard boat, you need to make sure that you're appealing to loads of different tastes.
Yes.
Rather than just one individual. Yeah. So it is quite a different way of looking at design.
And I guess it's got to be brand on point, right? So it's got to look like a princess, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the most important thing.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. So you were doing that for a period of time.
Yes.
And then what happened after that?
Then I decided to leave Princess, and I went to go and set up my own interior design company with a bit more of a sustainable kind of view on things.
Because that was one of your value sets. That's what you wanted to bring to the table, as it were.
Yep. Absolutely. And one of the things I was quite keen to do was to offer people a high-end look, but in a sustainable way. And I think a lot of people certainly people's assumption of sustainable design is, I'm going to have a rustic log for my dining table
with a few seeds on it.
And yeah, exactly. And then some, it's you can of course do that look, and that can look gorgeous.
Yeah.
But you can also achieve quite high end looks in a sustainable or more sustainable way. So I was quite keen to get that across to people. And really, unfortunately, a couple of months after I started that, I did a project which worked out really well, and then COVID hit just at that point. And then, of course, I couldn't visit anybody.
Yeah.
So it kind of put a bit of a stopper in the plan.
Yes.
And then towards the end of that COVID year, Chris got in touch with me about CTAG.
Okay.
So immediately I thought, well, this sounds like a fantastic idea.
Yes. And very aligned with your values, with the sustainability.
Very aligned with my values.
Yeah.
Bringing something dated back to life. I got to work with customers again. I got to do, my favourite thing is working with customers and pulling out their loves and passions and really what they want to feel like in the space, even if they have no idea how to achieve that.
Yes.
That's very rewarding. And I thought, this is the perfect opportunity.
And of course, boating was a growth area in COVID. So many other areas weren't, but boating really did do a spurt of growth during that time because people realised it was something safe they could do.
Absolutely, your own space.
Yeah. So you thought, okay, growth area. I know this guy is a good guy as well. You already had worked for him at Princess. So tell me about that whole process in coming together with Chris and that starting within CTAG.
So in the early days, I was quite lucky to get involved with the sort of what the company branding is going to look like as well. And I worked with my colleague Ellie, who you've interviewed previously.
Yes. Yeah, I love Ellie.
And she is obviously has loads of experience with marketing, and it was quite interesting to sit in on some of those meetings and understand a bit more about that side of it. But I had a particular look in my head as well that I wanted to make sure that we hit, which was quite a high-end branding.
Yep.
And I thought, well, Chris had lots of ideas about the direction in which the company, he wanted the company to go, of which I agree with. And I think the branding we came up with really sings well with that.
I agree. It's beautiful.
And it feels elegant and like what it should be. So it was really fun to get involved in that side of things before we actually started the business properly. And then, of course, in the April, I think it was 21, we took on our first project, which was a Fairline Squadron 58.
Oh, nice.
Yes, very nice boat. And we did what I feel now is quite a tame transformation compared to the summer projects we're working on at the moment, which is a much more sort of, I don't like using the word invasive, but much more sort of thorough.
Yes.
But it just worked. And I think people then really started to understand that actually, oh my gosh, you can make such a big difference to a space by just having a new headboard and a new carpet and, a few elements that are carefully selected. Yeah. And I think that's the art of it really. And particularly with boats where you're not doing a lot of rework to them, you've got to be quite careful about what elements you're choosing to change and what elements you leave. And I think if you reduce the amount of timber on some of these older boats, you actually make the bits of timber that you leave look much more special and much more beautiful. And it's as important to look at the things you're leaving as it is to look at the things you're renewing, and just to make sure that actually you're going to make the old things look new again and not make them look older. Yep. Okay. So there's a bit of an art to what you pick and choose to do. You don't need to do everything, but the art is in knowing what not to do and what to do. I love that. Because I've noticed you even when you say you replace the headboard, you don't necessarily just replace, because there are people that do, replacements of fabrics in boats, right? And their trimmers and but you guys go that little bit further. You change the shape of that headboard slightly, yes, to bring it into a more modern design. Yes. Yeah. So yes, we do that. We also, I like to make sure that we're picking up on some of the original features of the boats as well, so that even though what we're doing feels fresher and newer, it still has a link back to the old heritage of the boat, and you don't feel like you've completely just ignored the original style, because some of these boats are, do have a beautiful original look about them. And I'm aware not everybody wants to change that, so it's quite important to leave that sometimes, and to actually enhance it rather than ignore it. So for example, with a headboard, some of these older boats have beautiful kind of cappings to the bottom of the shelving or the side linings in timber, and you think, well, actually I'm going to copy the same radius that capping has and make sure that the headboard has exactly that same radius. It's a very simple thing, but just those links make it feel like, oh, is that headboard original, or is that new, or is that, but it looks new, but so the art is not knowing what we've changed. It's just making it all feel like a brand new product. I love that. Yeah. And I guess it's very exciting for you to take it, because some of the boats presumably sometimes come to you and a new owner's actually bought them, and the previous owner perhaps didn't have the money to spend on them. So you get the opportunity to do some big changes and make it look quite amazing. Yes. That must be incredible to see the clients' faces when they see the end result. Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of my favorite moments, actually, when you bring somebody on for the first time and they just don't recognize it in a good way. Yes. But they do totally then see all the plans that you've been through with them and think, oh my God, yes, I love that on paper, and my God, look at it in real life. Yes. And it's a very exciting moment to be involved in. Yeah. yeah, it is a real pleasure to see that moment.
Yeah. And of course, with what you're doing, you're taking old boats and turning them into newer boats, or making them feel like newer boats again. That's obviously very closely aligned with your values on sustainability, because it's not building a new one, it's taking one that already exists. Because of course they can last for a very long time, these yachts, and they're built well in the first place, so they can be around for a very long time. So I know you are very strong in that sustainability space, and I know you've been looking at some specific things in that sustainability. Can you tell us about those?
Yes. So there's a few different avenues to this. Firstly, fabrics. There's so many different designers now that are offering more sustainable fabric options. Some of them actually reuse plastic they've taken from the oceans and weave those plastics into materials, which we've used on a couple of projects. There's a carpet that we've used in a few different colorways on a couple of different projects now, which is also woven with sea plastic. But you would never know that by looking at it, because it looks so beautiful and high-end and opulent. And again, like I was saying earlier, my passion really is taking something like that as a surprise, and someone's picked it before they know that that's the situation, and you tell them and they go, oh, like, I thought that was silk. You know, it's you know, it's
because that would make them feel even better about picking that product, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And not to mention it's more practical because it has got that element of plastic in it. It's much more easy to clean, you know, which is very important on a yacht anyway.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different textile products that you can find, whether it be carpet or fabrics, that have those recycled properties, either fully recycled partly, or some of them give donations to different charities, depending on how many meters you buy, and a lot of them have started planting trees, etc. So there's a lot of good companies out there that are really trying to be more sustainable, and it's sort of directing our attention more at them and supporting them than companies that maybe don't do that. That's important.
I love that.
And there's also other ways in which we're trying to become more sustainable, like looking at the interiors of our sofas, for example. I mean, foam is not great for the planet.
No, certainly when it burns, it's atrocious for the planet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's different avenues that we're looking at for that. I wouldn't say we're there yet, to be honest. We're making sure that these things are really tried and tested before we offer them to our customers in the sea environment, because they're tried and tested obviously on land, but we want to make sure that they're fit for purpose. But there's lots of different fillings that we can replace foam with, like Coca-Lock, which is a horsehair that's being coated in natural latex. There's also another one that's coconut fibers covered in natural latex. So they're quite spongy and they do feel like foam, but they're completely recyclable and they're much more eco-friendly.
And I know your mattresses, you have a focus of local wool in those, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And our mattresses are made locally, and they're all fitted exactly to the bunks and everything. So they're not something you can just get off the shelf either.
Yeah. So you've got products that are really sustainable and incredible to have on board. I guess you've got to think, like you said earlier, about the practicality of that product for being actually on a yacht, in terms of the yacht's use and so on and so forth. I guess that's another added element to your design rather than another interior design. Is that something you've learnt over time, or?
Yes. And I think because I've been in the marine industry so long, I kind of forget now what isn't important in a house. So, for example, you don't need to bolt your lamp down if you're in a house. It's not going to move anywhere. But certainly with materials and UV and that kind of thing, it's really important you get that right on a boat.
Yeah.
And particularly for exterior fabrics. And there's some really beautiful fabrics that look like woven indoor fabrics now that you can use outside. And the fabric technology is getting better and better.
Yes.
It's mad what you can put in front of people, and they'll say, "Oh my God, can I put that outside? Are you sure?" And it's completely practical.
Wow.
So there's a lot of technology that's there now that wasn't even 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. So what's the favourite project we've worked on so far since you've been with CTAG?
Oh gosh, that's a really hard question.
Put you on the spot with that one.
Yeah, that's really hard because they're all so different and they're all enjoyable in their own way.
Give me a few.
I've really enjoyed. We did Hunton that was at Southampton Boat Show last September. I loved that project because that really shows a full transformation. That's the boat that we took. It's a 1990s Hunton. It was a bit of a mess when we got hold of her, and it's completely transformed. I mean, it looks absolutely stunning now. We've done all the exterior paint. We've done all new upholstery. Massive engineering works on that boat. The interior was completely ripped out. We actually moved the bulkhead in there 1 metre aft to accommodate a forward berth where there wasn't one before.
Wow.
Which was approved by Hunton
Yeah.
and the structural team. And it just looks like a different boat, to be honest. But the beauty of that original hull is made even more beautiful now by the new paint and everything. So it's quite an eye catcher.
Yeah.
And I think that's got to be up there in my favourite projects, definitely.
Love that because the classic lines of a yacht. There is that term of phrase, they don't build them like they used to because they don't to a certain extent with some of the yachts now. So some of those classic lines can be, I mean, Warren's, for example, in Australia, Warren was a brand that existed in Australia for a period of time. It no longer exists. So there are some beautiful Warrens on Sydney Harbour, and I'm hoping that those owners will continue to take care of those yachts because they're beautiful. And it's kind of a shame when we lose some of those brands. So to have a business like yours that brings those brands back to life again is for me it's really exciting because I'm a believer in, I get very emotionally attached to my yachts and my cars and things like that. So I love that we can put a new edge and a new life back into it, something that we love.
Absolutely.
Rather than having to go and find a new one that we don't have that relationship with, Yes. So I think it's a wonderful option for people to be able to go to your business and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at companies like Singer who will refurb Porsches in the most beautiful way, classic Porsches, and what they do just enhances every aspect of that vehicle. Yeah. And that's what we want to achieve at CTAG. Yes. It's about elevating and enhancing what you've got. And it's certainly not about taking the character away at all. And if it's something that's very important to you to keep or elevate the character, then we'd only be too happy to work on that. Yeah. So it's really, like I said, completely customer led. Whatever somebody wants to do, we'll do that. Whether that be a complete rip out and make it look like a brand new boat inside, yes, or whether it is really playing on those original features and making it look, even a little bit deco if you wanted to go that far. There's endless options. Because
that's a bit of a design trend at the moment, Art Deco, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's definitely coming back a little bit. It comes in waves, that one. Yes. But I've seen a lot of that around at the moment.
There you go. Yeah. And of course, boat design has improved in certain areas, so you can add elements like pull-out pantries that wouldn't have existed on a boat that was built in the 90s, but absolutely exists on every new boat built today. Yeah. So,
and it is about adding those luxuries in, and quite a lot of the boats we've done, we've added in new TV lifters and larger TVs and things like that. So it is about getting those modern day luxuries into the boats as well, and making them still feel like they were part of the original design.
Yeah. So in terms of your liaison with the clients, what's the most exciting part of that for you in terms of creating that vision for them?
The most exciting part. I think the most exciting part is when I start to see the spark in them that of the creation of what we're talking about, kind of when that sinks in, and they kind of get it. Now, that doesn't always happen with everybody. Some people can't really visualize things as well as I can, for example. And you get that moment on the boat when you take them on at the end. And a lot of our customers do have so much trust in us as a team to deliver something beautiful. We've got one customer at the moment who doesn't want to see it throughout the whole process, and he's left every decision to me.
Wow.
And he says, you know the kind of thing I want, and I think better than I do. So you do it, and I'll come and see it at the end.
That must feel lovely to have that level of trust in your ability.
Yeah, it does, absolutely, and I do know what he wants totally, and I do believe what he says I do know better than he in this occasion, better than he what he wants.
Yes.
So I'm sure he's going to be absolutely over the moon with it.
Yeah. Oh, how wonderful. That's exciting. So you must get totally different levels of clients wanting to be totally involved in every detail, and then...
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, they're all really fun to work with, whatever their style of design is. And for me, it's just important that they get the thrill at some point and they love it at the end. And, for the customer I was talking about a moment ago, he will get that thrill at the end in a huge way. But he wants the shock of going on and going, wow, this is my new boat. This is amazing. Other people want the constant excitement all the way through the project, which is great too. And you get to work with them in a different way, and you get to know them in a different way, working with them like that as well. So it really is a tailored process, whether that's, like I said, no two boats are the same, but that no two clients are the same. The whole process is different every time, to be honest.
Yeah. Is there one little thing that you've changed in a design recently that you got really excited about because it was something that you wanted to get done and it was a really great result for it?
Oh gosh, there's probably endless things, to be honest. There's a lot that happens every day at SeaTag.
I can imagine.
so I kind of forget half of it, to be honest. But yeah, there's always little wins, to be honest. And I'm very grateful that we've got such an amazing team of carpenters and tradesmen in SeaTag that are very understanding of my changes of mind.
I love that.
I know, but they're brilliant, and they understand how to translate a vision I have into the real thing in a quality way.
Yes.
And that's really important. They have those skills, and I completely rely on them to make sure that it's built to the best quality. And they know how to achieve what's in my head, which is real great teamwork.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I think we've had a wonderful conversation about what you do at SeaTag, Sarah. It's been great talking to you.
Oh, it's been great. Yeah. Enjoyed it.
Good. If there's anybody out there that has that sort of interior design love or design love in some way and would love to get into the boating industry, what would you like to say to them?
I would just say do it. I mean, there's nothing worse than thinking, oh, I'd love to do that, but I'm not confident enough. I think you build your confidence whilst doing it. And that's what I've learned. You just need to be a sponge. You need to go in there, not be afraid to say, I don't know what that means. And can you help me with this? That's how you learn. And I think if you single out a company or a few companies that you think they're fantastic and I'd love to get involved with them, just talk to them. Just go and talk to them.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. It's been lovely having you here, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
I wish you every success with both your career at SeaTag, but also your baby that's on the way, which is very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, a whole new world ahead with that, my love.
A different type of challenge, I
think. But yeah, that's going to be a fun world for you as well, which is very exciting. So I wish you every success with that.
Thank you.
How do we find you online to talk to?
I'm on LinkedIn. And we are, as SeaTag, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, Facebook. We have a website, which is seatagyachts.com. We're very easy to find as a business, to be honest. We're all on there, and we're all very chatty and open to conversations.
I certainly love watching your Instagram. It's very cool.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of fun projects on there. And on our website as well, there's some great case studies, and you can watch before and after videos of all the projects, which are fascinating, really, because you see the whole process in some of those videos, and you see the scary rip out stage in the middle as well, which a lot of people don't want to see, but it is interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's SeaTag Yachts. That's SETAG.
Yes.
And of course, yachts. We all know how to spell that. So it's been great talking to you, Sarah, and we'll see you on the water soon. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Boat Princess podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you'd like to know more about what I do and where I am, then you can follow me on Instagram at The Boat Princess. You can also sign up to my newsletter on my website, which is theboatprincess.com. Take care of yourselves, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you on the water soon.